Welcome to the Get Real Vodcast. I'm your host, Tanika Meeks, and Happy New Year. We survived 2020, barely for some of us. So today my message is, and this is going to be a little bit morbid for some of you, but stick with it. Look at the video all the way through. Don't just stop after the first 5 minutes. I implore you, if you look at none of my other videos, to look at this one to the very end. So today's topic is embrace death, live life. Now, I know for some of you, this being New Year's, because I'm actually shooting this video on Friday, January 1st, on New Year's. But I think it has a very important message, and I think it has the message we all desperately need at this point in our life. So, hey, stick with me for the next 15-20 minutes. This is going to be very important. I hope you listen to it all the way through and really not just be entertained by it, but really take it in, think about it, and really think about your own life in regards to what I'm saying. So, embrace death, live life. So I don't know how many people have seen the movie Last Holiday with Queen Latifah and LL Cool J. There are many movies out there like this movie. It's nothing new, but it's just a new twist because it has black people in it. So Queen Latifah is your average mundane person, living this very boring, insignificant, very small life. And so she gets up every day, she goes to work, she has this crush on LL Cool J because she works at this department store that they both work at. And she comes home, she cooks dinner, she watches a little TV, she goes to bed and gets up every day. And her life is basically on repeat. Go to work, come home, go to work, come home, go to work, come home, go to work, come home. She's your typical average, insignificant citizen. And I know that's harsh, but it's true. So, through a mishap at her job, she ends up having to go to the hospital where they give her this false diagnosis of that, she has this terminal illness, and then in a couple of weeks she's going to die. And so, she goes through this kind of grieving process of life, basically thinking like, hey, I've never began to live life. I've never done any of the wonderful things I wanted to do. And so she makes up her mind that she's going to start to live life. She quits her job, she goes off to this exotic resort, and she becomes determined to live. And so that's basically the movie. That's basically the whole movie in a nutshell. This person, living this very small life, encounters death, becomes determined to live. Like I said, there are a lot of movies out there like that. There are a lot of movies with that premise of, I'm facing my mortality, now I'm going to live. So what does that have to do with embrace death, live life? Well, for a lot of us, 2020 was a very hard, rough year. 2020 for most people impacted some aspect of their life, whether you lost a loved one, whether you lost your job. I lost my job in 2020. I got laid off in September. Whether it was a loss of income, a loss of lifestyle, a loss of industries. The restaurant industry was hit hard. Hospitality was hit hard. The cruise industry is still being hit hard. 2020 just was a year of just devastation for a lot of people, things, places. 2020 really just shook the world up. But I don't think it was meant to shake the world up. I think it was meant to wake the world up. So let me explain. I think 2020 gave us an incredible, eye-opening gift. Because we as people, as humans, I think we've got it in our mind that somehow we've overcome death. The death of this insignificant thing on down the road. Just think of it. 18-year-old, 21-year-old people, they start a new job. And what's the first thing most jobs try to get you to do? Well, add money to your 401k for retirement. Retirement age, I think, is 67. It may have increased, but I think it's 67. So you're telling someone at 21 to plan for an outcome 40 plus years down the road as if God has guaranteed them that time. We all live as if we're guaranteed tomorrow. And the Bible tells us we're not. Nobody's guaranteed the next day. You're not guaranteed the next hour. And yet somehow we as humans have started to live our life as if the next day is guaranteed. As if the next year, the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, that somehow we can see into the future. And we can't. And so we have become very good at wasting time. We become very good at sleepwalking through life. We become very good at not living life. I like to call it the zombie. I like to think of it as we're living in the zombie apocalypse. We're not living, we're existing. We're all mindless, aimless, numb people getting up every day, living lives that we don't want to live. We've all made our life so very small and boring, and we're trying anything possible to numb ourselves from that reality. If you ever seen zombie movies, all zombies do is looking for somebody to kill and their brains to eat. Zombies have no other purpose than to eat and destroy. Now, for some of you, you're not like, I'm not trying to destroy nobody. But what do you bring to life? What do you do for other people? Most of us, we get up, we go to a job we hate or dislike or barely tolerate. We come home to a spouse we may do the very same for, dislike or barely tolerate. Kids that, you may feel the same way about them. I'm not saying you don't love your children, but love has limits too. We haven't created lives that we want to live. We exist and we become very good at it. Most of us are zombies, whether you like that word or not. Whether I don't like what she's saying, this is the new year, she should be telling us to be healthy and wealthy, and let's get real about what's going on in life. If 2020 showed us nothing else, it showed us that death is very real. Everything that happened in 2020 was because we had forgot that death was still here, that death was still a reality, and that we have no recourse against death. We have all these amazing technologies. We can do all these amazing things, but man has not overcome death. And when death reared its head in 2020, we all ran home, locked our doors, and prayed to God that he wouldn't come looking for us. 2020 showed us that death was still very real. But death is not a tragedy. Not living is a tragedy. Nobody is guaranteed the next day. We are all living on borrowed time. From the minute you come out of your mother's womb to the day they put you in the ground, you're on borrowed time. None of us know how much time the Lord is going to give us. Some people live a few days, a few minutes, a few hours. There are people who live to be 110 and 120 years old. We don't know that. We don't know our expiration date. Only the Lord himself knows that. And that's why we need to learn to embrace death. Because once you accept the fact that, hey, I don't know how much time I'm going to live. I know when I was born. I don't know when I'm going to die. But I know I can enjoy that time in between. How many every years the Lord gives us? Whether we live to be 10, 20, 30, 50, 70, 100. Learn to enjoy that time. Embrace it. Embrace death. Stop fearing death. That's what's wrong with us. We fear life. We fear death. We fear joy. We fear pain. We fear suffering. We spend our life in a perpetual state of fear. We fear living. We fear death. We fear everything in between. We fear not being okay. We fear being okay. We fear telling people the truth. We fear lying. What part of life? When did life become so hard? And what 2020 showed us is death is going to come for us all. Whether or not you like that or not is the truth. At some point, death is going to knock on each and every one of our doors. You can't run from it. You can't hide from it. Your government can't save you from it. There is no cure for death. I don't care how rich you are. I don't care how many billions you may have. To my knowledge, nobody has ever paid off death. And so this video really is to me, appropriate for the new year. It's appropriate to realize we need to stop existing. We need to come out of this zombie state of existence and start to live. But you can only live once you embrace the fact that at some point you're going to die. And I know a lot of people get upset. Oh my God, I've lost loved ones. And why is she saying this? Because it's true. There is no shame in death. Death is simply a release from life. But the only shame is if you never begin to live life. And for those of you out there thinking, well, she must have never lost anyone that she's loved. I lost someone very important to me many years ago. And you know what? I made peace with that. I made peace with her death. I lost my grandma, one of the most important people in my life to me. And you know what? I'm okay because I realized it was her time. And I realized she belonged to the Lord. She didn't belong to Tanika. And while I miss her, and there are times I wish she was around, I know it was her time to go. And death is not going to be held off for nobody. So that's why we need to enjoy being alive. That's why we need to embrace being alive. This zombie state most of us exist in, it's like it literally is being the living dead. You're neither alive nor dead. Most of us spend most of our time numb to everything in life. And that's how we live our life, which really isn't living. And so I'm going to share with you a few things I think would help many of us. Now, there are people out there who are embracing life every day. I'm not talking about getting reckless with life. But what I'm talking about is making the most of the time that God gives you. Time is the measure of the years in our life, but it doesn't measure the life in our years. And if you don't know the difference between the two, email me. I'll explain it to you. Leave me a comment. I'll explain it to you. Every year we celebrate our birthday, but what does that number mean? And for a lot of us, it doesn't mean anything. Oh, I'm 40. Okay, what have you done with 40 years? Good question. So, Happy New Year. And let's not focus on being healthy, wealthy, and wise. Let's focus on being alive. You can't be woke until you're alive. Some of y'all run around here talking about, oh, people need to wake up. People need to wake up. No, people need to live. They need to first live. Then they can be woke. Let's get the order of this down. So the first thing I challenge you to do is cut out the distractions. Learn to be 100% present in life. Now, I'm guilty of this myself. If I've been on the phone with people talking, chatting it up, and then the next thing I know, I'll be on my phone scrolling Facebook or I'll be on Instagram. You're not listening to what that person is saying to you. You're distracted with something else. How many of us, when we drive, we're scrolling one of the social medias. We're doing something on our phones. We live to be distracted. Nobody or most people are never 100% engaged in their life. When your children talk to you, most of us are cooking. We're doing something else. We're, yes, sweetie, mama hears you. Mommy hears you. You're not listening to that child. You're not listening to anything that's coming out of their mouth. You just literally want them to go away. When we talk to our spouses, we have but listen. When we're at work, we have but work. We give nothing in our life 100% of our attention. We live for distractions. And that's why 2020 was so hard for many of us, because it took away all of our distractions. 2020 forced us into our homes. We literally had nothing to distract us. And that's why 2020 was so painful. In a society of zombies, and the world took away all of our entertainment. It took away all of our distractions. And now we had to deal with our husband and kids we may barely like, a life we're not content with. A job that we hate, but now we wish we could go to the office because we don't want to be at home with the family we don't want. I mean, 2020 was devastation, but it was devastation for us mentally. I know in the United States, we're very good about distracting ourselves. We're very good about not living life. Now, I know some of you, I live my life. Sure you do. The first thing I would tell you to do is learn to give whatever you're doing, whether you're working, talking to somebody, face to face or rather on the phone, learn to give something 100% of your attention. Stop piecemealing yourself out to all these different things. I know people always talk about, well, I need to multitask. Can we stop? Most of us are not good at multitasking. All that just basically means you're distracted in a number of different ways. So when you're on the phone with somebody, don't look through social media. Don't be doing other things. Actively listen to that person. When you're in front of somebody and they're talking to you, don't think about what you need to go to Walmart to get, what you're going to cook for dinner, what you need to go to the grocery store and pick up. A lot of us fantasize, daydream. I mean, our bodies are present, but our minds are always a million miles off. We're always in la la land. Many of us live in our own minds. Reality is secondary for a lot of us. I'm guilty of it. I've been at work and I've spent whole days daydreaming, fantasizing. I'll work for an hour, be on social media for 30 minutes. Work for another hour, be on social media for 15 minutes. Work for 2 hours, be on social media for 10 minutes. We have mastered the art of being distracted. We've mastered the art of never giving anything our attention, whether it be our families, our children, our job, our friends. We have mastered the art of being distracted. And it's so natural to most of us. We don't realize most of the time we're doing it. You can be sitting with your spouse, and even though you're physically there with them, you're not mentally there with them. You're not listening to what they're saying. You're not actively engaging that person. They have your body, but your mind is somewhere totally different. And so for the new year, I implore you, start with baby steps. When I go to work, I'm going to focus on work. When I'm talking to my spouse, I'm going to focus on actively listening to what's coming out of their mouth. When I talk to my children, I'm going to actively focus on listening to what they're saying. And do it in small degrees. You can't overnight just learn to focus 100% of your attention. Do it in small degrees. You know what? At work, I'm going to work for 2 hours, then get on social media. And maybe in a couple weeks, I'll work for 3 hours, then get on social media. Next time I talk to my husband, I'm going to turn my phone face down. Next time I talk to my wife, I'm not going to be over here trying to tinker around. I'm going to give her 100% of my attention. Now, hopefully she won't talk too long, and that way I can actually do it. But start to give 100% of your attention to whatever it is you're doing. And the second thing, and this is going to be harder for some of you, look at children, because children are born knowing how to live. We as adults teach them to fear life, and more importantly, teach them to fear death. If you ever look at a child, take a 3 or 4 year old child. When they wake up in the morning, they jump up with a burst of energy and they're ready to go. I don't care how mundane a task a child is doing, whether it's watching TV. If you've ever watched a child watch TV, their eyes dart all over the TV screen. They're trying to take in everything. They are engaged in that TV. They want to see every nuance that goes on. Children engage life. A child gives 100% to every day. That's when they lay down, they're gone. When a child's head hit that pillow, they're gone. You know why? Because they're out of gas. They're exhausted. Because they've given everything to that day. And so they need to rest. They need their battery to recharge. And that's what rest is. Rest is a chance for the body to recharge. But we as adults, and a lot of you out there with insomnia, and you can't sleep at night, and you're restless, and you toss and turn, you want to know why? Because your battery doesn't need to recharge. Because you've literally given maybe 10 to 20% to life. And you still got 80% of your battery that you've done nothing with. Most of you know I have part-time jobs. I love part-time jobs. But more importantly, I love physical labor part-time jobs because they exhaust the body. After hard labor, when I go in there and lay down, I conk right out. I fall right to sleep because my battery literally is on zero. I have nothing else to give. I'm tired. I need to recharge. But for a lot of you, when you lay down, your battery is still full. I know I put my phone on the charger every night. And most time with my phone, it's still maybe 60 to 70% charged. And what does the phone say? I'll schedule recharging for 9:30 the next day. Basically what it's telling me is I don't need to be recharged. And the reason a lot of you can't sleep at night or have problems sleeping at night is you don't need to be recharged. Your body doesn't need that rest. You may be tired, but that's because your body is programmed on this routine. At 10 o'clock, I'm supposed to lay down. So you go lay down. But it's not because your body needs the rest. You're just following the routine. We as adults are very good at not actively engaging life. We don't give 100% to every day. As I said, we're very good about being distracted. We're very good about half-butting life. We're very good about giving the bare minimum to everything in life. Most of us, we don't drain our battery down to zero. We don't need to recharge because we give so very little to life. We're not actively living. We're not actively engaging life. And kids, small kids, have mastered this art. They've mastered the art of, regardless of how mundane the task, they give 110% to it. Kids actively engage life in every aspect of life. And we as adults take that from them. We as adults indoctrinate them into fearing life, fearing death, not actively engaging life. So by the time they get through school and get a degree, and now all of a sudden they're adults, they don't know how to live. And that's a sad truth. Children come into this world knowing how to live. We teach them how to fear life, how to fear death, how to feel failure, how to fear being afraid, how to fear pain, how to fear suffering. We as adults teach children not to live because we don't, because we all this fear just all this fear. And so in 2020, start giving 100%. In 2021, start giving 100% to every day. Throw everything at it, including the kitchen sink. Start to engage life. I don't care how mundane the task. Be 100% there and engage whatever you're doing. What I'm about to say is going to hurt some of y'all feelings, especially if you're a Christian. If you're not a Christian, ignore me. But if you're a Christian, some of you have been praying for years for God to bless your life in some specific way. And I'm going to tell you the reason he hasn't. Because you're not alive. You know, by man's man's standards, as long as you have a heartbeat and a pulse, you're living. That's not God's standards of being alive. Living things grow, they adapt, they change. And what 2020 showed us is many of us are not living because we could not adapt. We could not adapt to the fact that the world had taken away our distractions. We turned into kids because the world had taken away our toys. And we threw a big ass hissy fit about it. Things that are alive, look at nature. Nature is very good about adapting, regardless of what's going on. But we as humans are not alive. We're in this zombie state. We're mindless and aimless and just wandering through life with no purpose and no real intent on doing anything. We have but everything we do. We're constantly looking for distractions. And when we can't find distractions, our other vice is to numb ourselves to life. Alcohol, drugs, marijuana, we do it through reality TV. We find any way we can to be numb. And that's how we live our life. And yet somehow, and for some reason, and I don't understand it, we want to live these long lives. For what? You want to live to be 80 for what? You're not living. You're not actively engaging life. Most of us don't know how to adapt. We don't know how to change. We don't know how to grow when our circumstances call for it. We're getting up living our life. Actually, you're not even getting up living your life. You're getting up existing. Going to a job you hate, but too lazy to change it. Dealing with a spouse you dislike, but hey, you need a second person to help you pay the bills. And we kind of have but raise our children. I mean, I see 2 and 3 year olds with phones and iPads. Because you know why? As parents, you don't want to engage them. You don't want to talk to them. You don't want to know what's on their little minds. You hand them that phone so they'll go away. And then want to call yourself a good parent. Congratulations. You're starting early indoctrinating them into not living. Kudos. And I'm not making this video to be mean. I know a lot of you probably like, I just need to turn this off. But listen to what I'm saying. Hear me. This is not for entertainment. This is a wake-up call. Because life is not going to get easier. I know so many of us want to put 2020 behind us because it was such a devastating year. But beautiful things grow out of devastation. We need to wake up. When I'm talking about being woke, I'm not talking about to all the political things in this world. I mean, wake up to life. Engage life. Live life. And stop looking for things to distract you from your life. Stop looking for things to numb you to life. Engage life. Live life. Because death will come whether we like it or not. Death is no respecter of persons. Death doesn't care how much money you do or don't have. Death doesn't care how big the house you live in. Death doesn't care what kind of car you drive or where you live. There is no tragedy in death. The only tragedy is never living life. Let 2020 be that wake-up call. Put down the marijuana, put down the opiates, put down the prescription drugs, put down the alcohol. Start to live and engage life. Yes, nobody wants to be in pain. I understand that. But pain is a part of life. And once you start to engage that pain, you'll realize that your brain, that little thing up here that nobody wants to use, will start to figure out ways to get over that pain, to help you cope with that pain. Most of us don't even know how to cope with life, but yet we want to live to be 80. Why? I'm confused. Stop being complacent in your own life. Stop walking around here like a zombie in your own life. Because God doesn't bless anything that he considers dead. And although you may be alive according to human standards, you may not be alive according to his standards, and know the difference. The Bible tells you he cuts off anything he considers dead. And so I hope this wasn't too depressing. It was a lot to take in on January 1st. But I know for myself, and I hope for my listeners and people who have been following this podcast and watching the videos, take this to heart. Evaluate your life and evaluate whether or not you are truly alive and living. And if you're not, take those steps to change it. Start giving your life your attention. Engage life. Engage the people in your life. Because you know what? At some point, death is going to come to take them. And then, what do we all do? Oh, I miss them. You know why? Because you didn't appreciate them when you had them. As I said, I lost my grandma a couple years back. But you know what? I'm okay with that. Because you know what? She was very good about engaging me, giving me 100% of her attention. She was always right there with you, regardless of what you were going through. If you give a person 100% of you, when death comes to take them, you're okay. Because you know you gave them all you had while they were alive. Give your own life all you got. When you get in that bed, be mentally and physically exhausted. Have a reason to rest or to need to rest. But many of us every day go to bed and our battery doesn't need to be recharged because we don't engage life. We don't engage anything in life. Change that. My wish for you in 2021 is not only a happy, healthy, and safe year, but start to engage every day. Treat every day as if it's January 1st. Treat every day as if it's your last. Treat every day as if you've gotten that call that you're terminally ill and you want to spend the rest of your life living your life. Don't wait till you're 50, 60, 70, 80 to try to live. Live each day. Live for today, but plan for tomorrow. But don't plan to live in the future because you may not be here for that. Reflect on 2020 and the lessons it taught us. But the biggest lessons it should have taught everyone around the world is that life is precious and can be taken from us at any moment. And death is no respecter of person. I don't care where you live, how much money you have, the color of your skin. When death comes for you, it's a wrap. So live life while you have it to live. And be 100% engaged in each and every day. Thank you for watching, this video for the Get Real podcast. It was deep, I know. It's deep for January 1st. New content will be posted every Saturday. I'm Tanika Meeks. Word of mouth is still the best advertising. So if you like the podcast, you like the videos, please tell another person about it. If you're watching it on YouTube, please subscribe. A lot of you are going on there watching the videos, but you're not subscribing. Stop being a creep. Stop being somebody lurking in the shadows. Hit the subscribe button. I'm tired of y'all. Happy New Year, and may you have a safe, healthy, blessed, and a beautifully live life and new year.